right, good morning. My name is Robert Almy. I'm the chair of the Dartmouth Board of Public Works. I'd like to call to order our meeting of December 11th, 2025. Uh, this meeting is being held by Zoom and is being recorded. We have today a quorum of two. Mr. Gagne, you're present.
Present.
The chair is present. All right, our first order of business is to approve and accept warrants for bills payable. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have motion by Mr. Gagne to approve and accept warrants for the bills payable period ending December 1, 8, and 15, 2025. The chair seconds the motion. All in favor, Mr. Gagne?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item is approved. Next item is approve and accept payrolls. Do I have a motion?
So moved that you accept the payrolls as presented.
We have a motion by Mr. Gagne to approve and accept the payrolls for the weeks ending November 15, 22, 29, and December 6th, 2025. Chair seconds the motion. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item is approved. Next item is approve and accept meeting minutes for the following dates: June 4th, 2025, June 24th, 2025, September 18th, 2025, and October 23rd, 2025.
I would move that we accept the minutes as presented by the chair.
I have a motion to approve and accept meeting minutes by Mr. Gagne, second by the chair. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Chair votes yes. Item is approved. Next item is old business, water enterprise rates and quarterly billing. Mr. Barber?
Yes. So due to the over expenditure of the water budget, due to having to purchase excess water from the city of New Bedford, we are facing a budget deficit again this year. In an effort to reduce the deficit, we are proposing a mid-year water rate increase. So Cody, I believe Cody had is presenting with Gary Carrera. I don't see Cody on the meeting. Do you?
I don't
No.
see him. I don't see him with us right now.
Okay.
I think we'll move on down the agenda. Wait a minute. Who's that? No, I don't see Mr. Haddad with us. We were provided a presentation yesterday, but I would prefer to wait until he's with us to make the presentation. So with that, we'll move down to old business B, comprehensive wastewater management plan update. Tim?
The comprehensive wastewater management plan request for qualifications has been advertised, and the treatment facility walkthrough is actually scheduled for this morning at 10:30 after the meeting. If any of the board members or anybody would like to join us for the walkthrough, you're welcome. And then the RFQs are due to be submitted by January 13th at 10:30 a.m.
Right. I know that this has been a lot of work for the staff. I'd like to thank Dennis and Sandy and Tim, and also the town administrative team for the work they've done on this. So, do we have
Yeah,
any questions from the board?
It was quite an effort putting together. Yes.
Mike, do you have any questions?
I don't.
All right, chair has no questions. Let's move back to item old business A, water enterprise rates and quarterly billing. Mr. Haddad, good morning.
Morning. How's everyone doing?
Good morning.
We're here
Yes,
bright
we
and
are.
early.
That's right. No better way to start my day.
Yeah, early anyway. I'm not sure how bright, but we'll see.
All right, I'm going to share my screen and is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So as you know, I'm joined by our finance director, Gary Carrero. We've been working diligently. So, we ended the last fiscal year in the Water Enterprise Fund in a deficit. We have really made a concerted effort, the team as a whole, to making sure we're reviewing that because we don't want that to happen again in the current fiscal year, fiscal 26. As we looked through basically Q1 of the fiscal year, expenses and revenue, we became pretty concerned that was going to happen again. So we brought forward to you a couple meetings ago the expectation of a mid-year rate increase. I had mentioned at the last meeting that we anticipated it being around 18%. The good news is we've been able to refine those figures, and we are going to be recommending a 13% increase to you today. But I'm going to go through and give you some background, and then we'll have an opportunity to open it up for questions. So again, I know the board is familiar with what an enterprise fund is, but for the public, right, an enterprise fund is really a business-like municipal service provided entirely and mostly by user fees and independent revenue. It keeps the finances separate from the general fund, a tax levy funded budget. Surpluses stay within the fund, right? That becomes retained earnings to fund future capital improvements. It's authorized under Massachusetts general law. And the key here, why we're talking today, right? Annual revenue must meet or exceed operational expenses. Ideally, you exceed operational expenses to build up your reserves to allow for capital improvements. Just wanted to start off by, here's the operating budget over the last 5 years for the Water Enterprise Fund. What you see is significant increases in the operating budget from fiscal 22 right to fiscal 26. 4.8 million in 22, we're up to almost $7 million in fiscal 26. This is probably the most telling piece. If you take anything away from this presentation, this is probably one of the most important things that we really talk about. In the dark blue, right, we have the percent budget increase year over year by fiscal year. In the light blue, you have rate increases. What do you notice, right? You notice the rate increases have not kept up with budget increases over pretty much the last 4 years. The fiscal 22 was a bit of an anomaly, but it's significant, right? If you look at fiscal 23, we had almost a 12% increase in the budget. Rates only increased 4%. Again, fiscal 24, almost 11% increase in the budget, 5% rate increase. Fiscal 25, we did only have a 3.7% increase in the budget, and we were able to recoup some of that, right, with the 7.5% rate increase. But back to that this year, with almost a 12% increase in the budget and a 7.5% rate increase. So if you take one thing away, you can see rates have not kept up with our necessary budget increases over the last 5 years, fiscal years. And this is a trend in retained earnings. So you heard me mention earlier, retained earnings is basically surplus revenue. Obviously, being a water enterprise fund, we have lots of capital needs. For those that were able to tune in and watch the long-term capital planning, the presentation that Tim put on regarding DPW, we have significant capital needs for the Water Enterprise Fund, not only now, but we also have future capital needs, in the range of $16 to $20 million over the next few years. Again, what you see going back over the last 5, 6 fiscal years, right? Retained earnings was close to $1.8 million in fiscal 21. And you've seen a steady decline in retained earnings. Again, we don't have as much fiscal flexibility. We're not building reserves because rates have not kept up with the budget increases. In fiscal 25, we had retained earnings of about $240,000. But you recall we had a deficit where we had to pull 100,000 approximately from that. So right now, retained earnings sits at about $140,000. That's concerning when 5 years ago we were close to 2 million. So where are we? Now, I've given you some context. Why are we here today? I mentioned it earlier. We ended a budget in fiscal 25 with a budget deficit of about $100,000. Our team projects that if we do not make any adjustments to rates for the current fiscal year, we will have a deficit of approximately $500,000. Now, we never want a deficit, but the bigger concern this year would be we don't have the retained earnings necessarily to cover that deficit, right? Last year in fiscal 25, we made a transfer. You never want to have to do that. Retained earnings should really be used for capital, but if you need to, it was available. We do not anticipate having that flexibility this year, hence with the need to bring forward this mid-year rate increase. Why? Right? Well, what's happened over the past few years, and particularly in fiscal 26? We've talked about it multiple times, but reliance on New Bedford's water. To give you some perspective, we budgeted $1.6 million in the purchase of New Bedford water. When I ran a report earlier this week, we've spent almost $2 million on New Bedford water thus far this fiscal year. So right there, you can see, right, that's almost $400,000 that we did not account for. DEP restrictions, as we get into peak water season, we have various restrictions, particularly with the Pascagoula River levels. If the river levels get below a certain point, we have to shut down some of our wells. That reduces the ability for us to produce, and that increases our reliance on New Bedford water. We're fortunate that we have that as an option, but it does it puts a damper on what we're able to produce. And the other big piece of this, which we'll get into, is we have annual water restrictions, and we are seeing increased water consumption from the community that we are not able to keep up with, again, which makes us be more reliant on New Bedford water, which comes at a much more significant cost than the water that we produce here in Dartmouth. And there's also other factors such as energy. I mean, you all see it, our residents see it. Energy costs have gone up significantly. Our wells in the facilities that we have with the Water Enterprise Fund use a lot of energy. So when we see those things increase, that's something that we're seeing increase in our budgets there. Chemicals for the water treatment have significantly increased. And again, we also saw, I believe it was an 8% increase in the fee that New Bedford was charging us for water this year. So again, right off the bat, that increase is 8%. We only increased our rate 7.5%. We're at a disadvantage once again with the purchase of water at such a significant rate. You heard me mention water conservation and how much water we've been using as a community, and I think this is an important piece. This compares 2024 and 2025, so not a lot of historical data, and this is millions of cubic feet, right? And it's a little over 7 gallons per cubic foot. So we're talking millions and millions, hundreds of millions, right, of gallons of water here. And what do you see? The dark blue is 2025. The light blue is 2024. Now, don't pay attention to December because obviously we only have through, when we ran this report. So December really isn't a good comparison. But we're using pretty much a lot more water this year than last year, right? In particular, during those peak months, during your summer months, June, July, August, when you can see it doesn't look significant, but when you're talking cubic feet in the millions, which equates to millions and millions of gallons of water, this is significant, and this really is one of the major contributory factors of why we're in the place where we are today. We're using a lot more water, but we've not had an increase in our supply portion. So we really need to work on making sure the community is aware of water conservation efforts and restrictions which, we'll get into, but we plan to heavily enforce those restrictions going forward. All right, you have background, you have an idea of how we got here, why we're here. Now, what does this mean, right, for the average user? We're proposing a 13% increase to all tiers, right? So we have a tiered water structure here in Dartmouth. So a 13% increase across the board. Minimum usage right now per quarter, you get 600 cubic feet included, basically in that tier 1 minimum usage charge. We're proposing to reduce that to 400 cubic feet. We've been talking about transitioning to quarterly billing for quite some time now. We're going to be implementing that in January of 2026. All customers would go to quarterly billing. As you know, right now, residential is twice a year. The average bill would rise from $186.66 to $228.81 per quarter, which equates to about $14 per month increase. And we are also, with the meter replacement project, we have this Ion Water. I'm sure you've heard Tim and the team talk about this. It's a great tool, but there's a fee for that. We're required to pay the cellular fee for each meter. So we are looking to add a $3 per meter fee per quarter, essentially just to cover our costs. This is exactly what it costs us. So we need to recoup that cost. And as a note, right, you can see Ion Water is not just beneficial in the fact that as a user, I can have the mobile application and log on and see my water usage, but it allows us to go to quarterly billing, right, which allows for greater budgetary flexibility with our residents. They're able to better plan, get a bill every quarter that would be lower, right, than one they get every 6 months. And then also and I think this is key, it allows us in the community to detect leaks sooner, right? So if you have a leak potentially and you don't have access to the live water usage, you may go until a whole nother bill cycle until you get a huge bill and you realize, wait, something's wrong here. Do I have a leak in my sprinkler system? Do I have a toilet that's running? I just haven't noticed it. This is something we're able to see in our community, and residents are able to log in and see, hey, I have water running nonstop. Something's wrong here, and hopefully nip this in the bud, which again, not only conserves water, but will result in hopefully a lower bill for our residents who are experiencing some sort of leak in their water system in their home. We recognize this is not ideal. We never want to come forward with a mid-year rate increase. We certainly never want to come forward with a 13% mid-year rate increase. This is unprecedented, and we recognize that this is, it's not great. We don't want to have to do this, but we wanted to put together some comparable water districts in what that average bill looks like based on 5,600 cubic feet. And this is some data that was provided by Tim and the team. And so you see New Bedford and Fall River, they're outliers, right? Their bills are on the lower side of things. And then you see there's kind of a significant jump, right? But Dartmouth is next at, a little over, close to $425 for 5,600 cubic feet. And then it goes up. You see Taunton, you see Bridgewater, Attleboro, and Norton, almost $500. So again, we recognize the increase is not ideal. We want to provide high quality services at the lowest cost possible. But I think this shows the board and the community, what we're looking to do. It's not unprecedented in the fact that this is what other water districts are having to do to provide quality water to their community. A few other things that we want to mention, because this is not sustainable, right? We cannot come forward with large increases like this annually. We need to sustain the operation. We need to sustain the finances. So you've heard me mention a lot about water conservation, and we need to focus on that, right? Efficient use of water entails responsible design with landscaping, appliances, irrigation equipment, and all the devices in your home that use water. And it really is incumbent on our individual users to use water wisely and minimize waste. We do have water restrictions that, we post every year. We're going to do a better job this year of getting that information out there, and we will be finding people. We are going to be taking an aggressive approach to violations of those restrictions. We are legally allowed to fine up to $300 per offense. And you will see the water department out there enforcing that strictly going forward, particularly as we get into the spring and summer. And a lot of this, again, it really is irrigation, right? That's the biggest thing. There's certain times a day that we ask you to use your irrigation. We're actually we're pretty liberal in the sense that there's some communities when they have water restrictions, you can only use your irrigation system on certain days, or there's some that even you can't use it at all, right, during peak season. Where our restrictions are not at that point yet. We just have certain times of the day where we require that you use it, which are essentially out of peak demand times. So we can provide the water that's necessary rather than relying on New Bedford water. So we'll get more information out on that, but I just want to make it a point. Water conservation is key here, and we're going to be really working towards that going into 2026. Reviewing our supply costs, you saw me in the average bill. New Bedford has one of the lower water bills, right, for a resident in the region. We want to work with New Bedford to get that rate down for the town of Dartmouth. We buy a significant amount of water. You heard me say we've purchased almost $2 million this year in New Bedford water alone, fiscal year, I should say. We need to negotiate a rate that is that works for both communities. So Tim and the team are in the process of working with New Bedford on updating our agreement, which likely would include the rate itself. We have several wells that are down currently, existing wells in the community for one reason or another, whether it's lightning strike, whether it's issues or making sure quality is there in some wells. We have wells that are down. We are working to get those wells back online. And we have 3 key wells that we anticipate being back online before the end of this fiscal year. So again, that is relief that we expect in the next fiscal year. Doesn't necessarily help us now, but we are planning and working towards a solution. And then there's a few other wells that we need to make upgrades to and work through, and we'll be doing that over the next several fiscal years to get those online and also increase production where we can to provide water for our community. And then we've heard this. We need to look at investigating further opportunities for water supply in the community. The town has relied on the water from the city of New Bedford for some time now. That's not a new thing, right? It hasn't been to this level. Last year, it was almost 50% of our water was coming from New Bedford at some times. Historically, it was around 20, maybe 30. But we want to look at opportunities to provide our own water to our community and not have to rely on another community on a regular basis. So we are in the feasibility stage of looking at an interconnection with the city of Fall River. Westport's done a lot of work there, so that may be an opportunity. And we need to go for funding at future town meeting to really conduct an analysis on how we can produce more water in Dartmouth, our own water. And just as a note, I've said it a few times, but we recognize the significant financial burden that this may have on some households in the community, particularly on our elderly and low income. And so we are looking at programs and opportunities to provide reduced billing starting in fiscal year 2027. That's something that we do not offer right now with our water bills. You may be familiar, we offer it with the smart billing, the trash billing, but we do not offer with water bills and sewer. So we are going to be investigating that to see if it's something that we can offer. And I expect Tim and the team to bring something forward to the Board of Public Works, hopefully sometime in the spring. Again, timeline, the rates as approved by the board and structure would be effective with the first billing in 2026. We have developed an online bill calculator for our residents. So with the updated percent increase, proposed 13% increase, we'll be launching that on the water department page. It allows you to essentially go in. You do have to select your meter size, which most of our residential meters are 1 inch, Tim, right?
Yes, most new
And
meters, some old meters are 5/8 and 3/4, but yes.
yeah, so but your bill, if you have a previous bill, your bill will tell you what your meter size is, and then you can put in your usage, and you can get that from previous bill. This is based on monthly usage, so if you're looking at a bill, a semi-annual bill, divide that by 6, right, and put that in here, and this will give you an idea of what your bill look like. Or you could even plug in, hey, if I use more water in the summer, what would my bill look like? So kudos to the team for putting this together. I think it's a valuable tool to provide to our community. And then after the Board of Public Works approves a rate increase, Tim and the water team will be sitting down with DCTV, putting together an informational video, which we will plan to launch. We want to make sure that residents are aware of this, and this is not just a one-time approach. We need to work on water conservation and long-term stability of the water enterprise fund, because right now, we need to bring that stability back. And then lastly, before I open it up for questions, this is what you can expect a revised bill to look like with the 13% increase. So the back of your bill, right, has basically the breakdown of what the bill charges are based on your meter size, and then there's the tiers, right, on the right side for the water usage. So with that, I know that's a lot of information. I hope this gave you an idea of how we got here, why we're here, but we can open up to questions. I appreciate, Tim, Gary, and Steve have been instrumental in working long hours to make sure we put forward something that is least impactful to the community, yet makes the Water Enterprise Fund solvent and financially stable going forward.
Thank you, Cody. Great presentation.
Rob muted. Oh, you're muted, Rob.
Yep. Mr. Gagne, any questions?
Not so much questions, but a comment. The retained earnings at $140,000 is extremely concerning, because the Department of Revenue makes recommendations on what you should have in reserves, and it's based upon generally what the budget is, similar to what they do with the levy and the regular tax funded annual budgets. At an $8 million budget, $140,000 in retained earnings is extremely concerning, and well below the Massachusetts Department of Revenue's recommendation for that. So that would be the first point I would make. The second point is, generally, since you do have a substantial amount in cost of capital improvements that must be done to meet DEP and federal drinking water standards, the matter becomes very concerning, because generally you would put up some of your retained earnings, but since the projects are so expensive, you don't fund all of it from retained earnings. Generally, you go out and you borrow the money under a debt service, which the debt service is funded by the Sewer Enterprise Fund, and you're going to have to make the annual payments on that debt service. And there's no way you're going to do that with any kind of retained earnings in a tight budget that you're seeing right now. The forecasts that Cody and Gary and Tim came up with, even at that, I'm concerned, and I would ask them to watch that on a monthly basis, because that's very concerning. It's necessary. It probably should have been done some time ago, but I think these individuals have done a good job with an excellent presentation, and I would ask that they probably encourage the Dartmouth News reporter to view the presentation, and then that way they can write an appropriate story with all this information and a link to this presentation. But I got to say, the presentation was exceptional. Thank you.
I'd echo Mr. Gagne's comments. Excuse me. I'd like to add one of my own and then a suggestion. The first is that the cost of purchasing water from New Bedford is roughly 10 times the cost of producing our own water. And therefore, when we purchase more water from New Bedford than we have estimated, it very quickly throws our budget out of balance. And I think that's
You're breaking up, Rob.
our piece here is that in the past, New Bedford has modified or raised its water rates after the adoption of our budget. And I think as we move forward, there needs to be embedded in our agreement with them for water purchases, some mechanism to have them indicate the cost of water well before we adopt our budget. That seems prudent and fair. And so those are two comments. The last is when I look at the excess use charges in the proposed billing, I noticed that the highest water use is above 2,125 cubic feet at nearly $90 per thousand cubic feet. I suggest that at some point in the future, there be an additional step added that increases the a new top rate with a much higher cost per thousand cubic feet to recognize that that higher level of water use is likely to be included or to trigger additional purchases from New Bedford, and also is likely to be associated with irrigation and controlling irrigation in the summer, I think is something that we need to focus on. Cody, you mentioned that in your presentation. I couldn't agree with you more. But I still think we should have an additional top rate that is specifically set up to encourage conservation of outdoor water use through financial means. That seems to be effective. It's proven to be effective over many decades in other parts of the country. And I think we ought to take a hard look at that for next year's rates. Anyway, those are my comments. Any comments from the public? Any questions from anyone else?
Am I allowed to speak?
Absolutely. You're a member of the public, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I was shocked by what I heard. I had no idea we were in such dire straits in regards to our water usage. And his comments, I think, were it was an excellent presentation, by the way. And it's unfortunate that the entire community couldn't hear it, but in any case, there he brought up a lot of factors that I just wasn't aware of, and it's interesting because in our community, Countryway and Payneham Acres, we are considering putting in wells because we recognize the irrigation issues that we're having there and the results of the water bills. But in any case, my point was going to be that as much of that information that could be made to the public, I think the better off the entire community would be. And I don't know how to effectively do that, but if there are ways to, again, communicate that to the entire community, I think it would be helpful.
For the record, sir, could you state your name?
Ron Winnick.
Okay, Mr. Winnick, thank you very much. I think you saw in the presentation, there was a slide about getting the word out to the public. One of the key presentations will be to the select board Monday evening. And as hard as it is to compete with media these days, hopefully the local newspaper will pick this up. And we have discussed ways to get it out on the town's cable network as well. So I absolutely agree with you that it's very important to get this out, and it's probably a message that we'll have to continue with all the way through the spring and into the summer.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. The more often you can spread the word, I think the better off you'll be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
All right.
may I make a comment as well?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Winnick and Tim Barber. So also, you mentioned possibly going to wells, installing wells at Country Way. And while the restrictions that we impose aren't imposed on private wells, the restrictions should be followed. As you're drawing peak water, we're all pumping out of the ground, and we're restricted during May and September to restrict some of our wells to allow the groundwater to recover from the draw. So I always encourage private well users to follow those restrictions as well on irrigation times. So you're not irrigating during peak usage time and also, hot times of sun exposure, which helps evaporate water rather than allow it to get back into the ground.
Yeah, I think that information needs to be more widespread. For example, I couldn't tell you what the best times to irrigate are, although we try to do it at night. And in regards to how frequently you should water, I think that would be helpful as well.
And typically our restrictions are you can water between 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. So non-essential water use should be is restricted during between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. So.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. Haddad, thank you very much. Excellent presentation. And I think we can have a conversation about the presentation to the select board as well. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Just as a note, so we're going to present this to the board on Monday night. If the Board of Public Works is available, it would certainly be great for you, I think, to attend. And also, it would be great for you to take a vote on a recommended rate in the structure here as proposed.
Yes.
Well, as to your first comment, I have it on my calendar. And then if there are other board members that are there, we will attend the select board as individual members. So we won't run into problems with the noticing. Unless you recommend we attend as a board. But why don't you think about that and have a conversation with Mr. Barber about what you think the right way to do it is.
Rob, one of the things you might want to consider is since Cody did make mention of the recommendation, if you post that meeting for Monday night after the presentation to the select board and our recommendation, we could actually then take the vote. I think it would be nice to hear the comments and thoughts of the select board. And my feeling is, as a board, we would then be able to take a vote after hearing that. So just an idea.
Mr. Haddad, do we have time to post a Board of Public Works meeting for Monday evening?
Yes, yeah, just you would need to get it posted prior to 6 p.m. today.
All right. And then Mr. Gagne, are you available?
I will be there.
Okay. So we will have a quorum. And if you want to post our meeting, and Perhaps what we could do is call our meeting to order at either at the beginning of the select board meeting, so we don't get in the way of process, or just before this item comes to the select board.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Okay, now with that, I believe we are not going to formally approve a 13% increase in the rates at this meeting, that we're going to defer that until Monday evening, after we hear any comments from the select board and any additional comments from the public. Is that correct?
I think that's a good way to approach it. And that way, hear what the select board members have to say, and that they see the presentation. And I certainly think the coverage, of the select board meetings is quite good, and the public will certainly be made aware of the concerns and the items identified in that presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so then we will defer action until our next meeting, and that is tentatively planned to be Monday evening in association with the select board. Tim, you and Mr. Haddad can figure out the posting and take care of that.
Yes, we'll take care of the posting today.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Anything else on this item?
No.
Okay. I'd like to thank the administrative team. In the past, there have been some questions about the level of cooperation. I think with the new team on board, things, at least from my perspective, are much better. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh,
And
thank you. Like you said, it takes a team, so we appreciate it. We appreciate the opportunity, and we will. You're fortunate. You get to go through this twice. You get to hear the presentation again on Monday.
well, I have some ideas. Maybe it won't be exactly the same presentation.
Okay. Well, we look forward to any feedback that you may have.
Okay. Thank you. All
Thank
right.
you. Take care. Have a good day.
All right. Then we will move on to item C, an update on the operational study. Tim?
So I did have a chance to sit down with Mr. Gagne to discuss the operational study, and you know and potentially working on the scope, um, uh, due to the cost of the extensive scope, this may have to be advertised as a request for qualifications or request for proposal. So I recommend we work on the scope to tighten it up a bit to get that cost down. Unless we choose to advertise an RFQ.
Mr. Gagne, any questions or comments?
I had a good meeting with Tim on this. I gave Tim a set of notes that I had come up with in trying to scope the degree and nature of what the Dartmouth Public Works Department does, because I think it's extremely important to cover all of the facets. Our Public Works Department covers a lot more than many municipalities' public works departments, and I think it's important that the consultant that's selected has experience with the type of a community we are in public works and has that information. And I think it would provide a better, steady outcome. Thank you.
All right. I have no questions. Does anyone else have any questions about this? The only thing I'd note is that we've been working on the scope for a while and trying to get this done, and this is a priority of the select board. So, Tim, whatever you can do to keep it moving,
Sure.
I think is appropriate.
Yeah, we had requested some quotes on the scope, and they were exceeding some of the procurement limits. So we're, like I said, we
Yeah.
think we have to tighten it up a bit so we can meet procurement.
Okay. If there are no other questions on the operational study, Item D, storm debris management. Tim?
At this time, there are no updates on the storm debris management plan. We plan to have more updates in the future.
All right. Item E, 33 Sagamore Drive.
This item was completed last meeting and was placed on the agenda in error.
Okay. Next item, item F, water pollution control composting.
As an update to the board on our ongoing water pollution control composting of biosolids future, there's been some recent correspondence from DEP in regards to the completion of a recent study that included sampling of effluent, influent, and sludge at all Massachusetts water pollution control facilities that discharge to surface waters. And in regards to PFAS, and the study is available in the link that was in your packets. And part 2 of the study also included future options and associated costs for disposal of sludge and wastewater biosolids. There's also a link to that report, and we had touched base on some options, including trucking, incineration, and other options that are all extremely expensive. And if you look at the costs in that report, it's pretty alarming. So we plan to continue to work on alternative options for biosolids disposal, including working with our consultants and our vendors for the best options and hopefully least amount of cost.
Mr. Gagne, any questions?
I just want to probably reiterate a comment I made on the previous meetings, is that plant, when it was upgraded in 1995, specifically encompassed that composting measure and operation into that. And knowing what communities are paying to have liquid sludge trucked away to various incineration facilities, I think it makes all the sense for us to consider doing a solicitation for the same material that used to be taken by Casella. I think it was Casella. And I did happen to go out of this area and looked at a couple of facilities that actually produce a mix for their materials that they sell. And I think there is a market out there, maybe not with the company we've used for years, but I think you would be surprised, because you're going to need those revenues that you get for that material, and have a revenue coming in versus an expense going out. We really should work very, very hard to continue the whole model, why we did the plant the way we did in 1995. So I think there's opportunity there. And if we can avoid additional expenses by another company selecting this material, I think it would be great for the revenue you need.
And it might be a company that's not based in Massachusetts because of the regulations that are coming down regarding land use of biosolids. So I think it's a good idea, and we're looking to move forward with soliciting the biosolids disposal for compost.
Any comments from the public? All right. Tim, I think if you could keep us apprised of what's going on, and we're entering now a process for evaluating wastewater disposal overall for the town, and I think this is an important element of that. And I think as we go through the comprehensive wastewater management plan, I think this will be a piece that will make a big difference from a standpoint of the finances, as you point out, but also the design of the any upgrades or replacement of the facility.
Yeah. We plan to to see some recommendations in the comprehensive wastewater management plan, but that's a little ways out. So, and I think looking at estimating trucking costs, we're looking at around $1.3 million increase in our budget for those costs. So if we can, if we can discard these for cheaper costs, it would work and be beneficial, and hopefully maintain our composting process, because it is a great process, and it allows us to use the residents the brush for the compost, which is at no cost to the residents, and then we produce a grade A product that that's been used for years. So,
Yeah, just make sure the consultant's got a good crystal ball. They may need it.
correct.
Okay. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to new business. Item A, wastewater consulting agreement.
Mr. Chairman, I know we're getting into new business. Mr. Winnick he wasn't just here for the presentation. He's also here because he had filed for a water and sewer abatement request. So I recommend if we could take this out of order to move Mr. Winnick's abatement request along, since he's been here through the meeting. Unless he would
Certainly,
like to
that would be
around.
item C, Tim.
That would be item C, yes.
Yeah, okay. If you could introduce that, please.
Item C is water and sewer abatement application for 65 Country Way. Mr. Winnick has stated that their usage through April and May of 2025 has far exceeded their typical usage from previous years. Steve Sullivan concluded that this may have been a toilet leak issue, as I guess the volumes were kind of estimated at that type of use. Mr. Winnick also noted that during this increased use, the house was vacant until June 1st, and somehow the flow stopped on its own. The usage is shown on the graph in your packets. I can bring up a graph as well if you'd like to see it. The usage from April 1st of 2025 to October 28th was 20,730 cubic feet, with a total bill of $2,712.73, with $1,173.97 from sewer, and $1,538.76 from water. Looking at last year's usage for this time period, looks like the usage was about 13,720 cubic feet, with a total bill that included water and sewer for $1,630.92.
Tim, I have a question. I'm sorry. In the request, it refers to an MBR toilet. Can you give us a little bit of background on what that is and how it functions?
I may ask Mr. Winnick if he could speak to that.
Mr. Winnick, could you help us with that?
It's the master bedroom toilet. Apparently, apparently, there was something that was in the, I guess, the structure of the toilet bowl. I'm not disputing that with the water was used. I mean, the meter is the meter, and I'm not disputing that. I wasn't. We go to Florida from October to June, and so the house was vacant, and I have no idea why it started, have no idea why it stopped. And I assume it, in the structure behind the bowl, there's all kinds of different fixtures that control the flow of water. Something must have gone screwy with that, I would assume, to cause the flow of water. Again, I guess my timing on this couldn't be worse in regards to the issues with water in our community. But the bill, as you can see, is exceedingly high, and I was looking for some relief.
Right. The reason I asked about MBR is it turns out MBR is shorthand for a very specific kind of toilet that has higher treatment. And I wanted to make sure that we were talking about a standard toilet as
Oh,
opposed
okay.
to one of these
Yeah.
real fancy.
No, it's your
Okay.
basic
Yeah.
toilet.
Okay. Thank you. Um, Tim, anything else on this for us?
No, it looks like after that usage, and when you ride back home, there was an increase in usage, not near as much as the usage through May. So I assume this is
Irrigation.
some irrigation. Yeah.
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 All right. Mr. Gagne, any questions?
I'm sort of curious if we apply the same principle that we did with the gentleman from Emerald Drive a couple of meetings ago, where would the number arrive at, Tim? I think what we did on that one is we looked at the sewer portion and then we abated on only the sewer portion, but not the actual water consumption.
All right.
Yeah, and I also
And that,
think there was consideration of what normal water use for that period of time was,
Yeah,
and that was subtracted out as well.
yeah.
So Tim, can
So
you
then-
get that information for us?
yes,
And
I have I did list the usage of the last year's billing period at this time as well, which was about, I think, 7,000 cubic feet less. I can work up the costs associated with last year's use based on this year's rates.
yeah, not the new rates, Tim,
No, the FY25 July
right?
125 rates. Yes.
Okay. And then can you bring that back to us? And the payment is held in abatement, is that right?
Yeah, we do recommend that payments are made. They can be refunded based on the payment. So but the just so there aren't interests and demands placed on the account. And we work with the collector's office as well on that.
Yeah, I paid the bill.
Okay. All right.
Right. So this is important because we get these requests from time to time. And we need to be consistent so we're fair with everyone that that comes before us. And there's also a wide range of reasons this happens. In the next item, it was an irrigation system, and that raises different issues.
Yep.
All right. Are you comfortable, sir, coming back next month and when we have more information in front of us and we can actually make a decision on this?
Sure.
Okay.
And I can reach out, Mr. Winnick, once we have that calculation to inform you of it.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
I appreciate your work. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Mr. Winnick, we want to get this right. There's a fair amount of money involved, and as I say, we try and treat these kinds of requests consistently and fairly. So,
Very good. Thank you.
all right. Thank you. Hopefully we'll see you next month.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. All right. Tim, is the owner of 15 Puritan Street with us? Do you see?
I don't see them here. We were unable to get in touch with them. We did leave out a message. We didn't have any email address, so we can continue to try to contact them, and I can put this on the next meeting unless they do show up later in the meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to have the property owner here when we talk about this, just
agree.
in case there's anything else that comes up. All right, and then Tim, by the way, this item 15 Puritan Street looks a little bit like the one we did last month.
Correct.
in terms of it's an outdoor water use, and so there wouldn't be any implications to the sewer.
Correct.
So it would seem appropriate to handle that pretty much the same way as the other one. So if you could come back with a specific recommendation.
Yeah, the only difference is that discharges to New Bedford sewer. So
Yeah, right.
we'd have to
Right.
abate also with New Bedford, the city of New
Okay.
Bedford. Yeah.
All right. Can you, and is that done, that's done through a separate process?
Yes.
Can you initiate that process and make that part of the report back?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, let's go back to item new business A, wastewater consulting agreement.
So this agreement is specifically for the consultation, review and analysis of a proposed discharge to sewer from the Oberon Sherwicks company facility located on Fontana Road in Dartmouth. This facility has an overflow on their cooling tower system that currently discharges to the ground outside their facility, which was found by Mass DEP by a routine inspection, which was followed up by correspondence with us regarding this issue and a request for resolution and in the you know form of possibly connection to sewer. Um, Due to this uh, discharge being from an industrial facility, we we involve our consultant Stantec to uh, analyze their process and sampling to determine what nutrients or metals or any chemicals, anything, or and pH levels that are in that discharge to make sure that they do align with our treatment facility requirements. And the cost for this is $4,200, and I have also given this agreement to Oberon Sureworks for their review and payment. We would not enter into this agreement with Stantec until Oberon uh, does pay the funds that we can put into a 53G account and use that to fund the consultant's work.
Okay. Mr. Gagne, do you have any questions?
No, I would make the motion that we approve the agreement for consulting services of Sherwick Stanek for $4,200.
Motion for approval by Mr. Gagne. The chair seconds the motion. Tim, before we actually take a vote on this, when was this facility built, roughly?
Well, the facility it's located in the old Vanity Fair building on Fontana Road. So it was typically with a change of use when uh, landlords lease to tenants, and including in commercial and industrial uses. Um, they've been around for quite a few years, and sometimes this step of notification gets missed from when it's permitted through, say, like the building department uh, or zoning to come in to as a change of use where it's not a new construction. So sometimes we don't get those notifications. So that's one of my uh, you know notes that this is important that we get notified on any change of use because uh, it could have an impact on our sewer system and whether it's this type of industrial use or a restaurant with fats, oils, and greases. So we all these discharges impact our sewer, so we really do need to be notified.
Yeah, and I am uncomfortable that the change in use occurred and there was an actual surface discharge. A wastewater discharge at the surface, and it was caught by a state inspection. That suggests to me that whoever was responsible for inspecting this project and the permitting really did miss something.
Yes.
And I'm just, I just hope that the discharge isn't so serious as to require a site cleanup. Anyway, okay, so we have a motion and a second for approval. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Gagne votes yes, chair votes yes, item is approved.
And
Yes, yeah.
just one last comment. I've recommended numerous times to the company in the interim that they provide some containment uh, for the discharge. It's not a large amount of discharge, so and they don't know the volume, so for them to figure out the volume and contain it would be beneficial. So they're also working on that as well.
Okay. All right, moving to item B, sewer betterment notice. Tim?
Yeah, so this is a sewer betterment notice lien discharge for 56 Lakeside Avenue. So the request is for the notice of sewer betterment, which was estimated prior to the construction of the sewer project at $11,998.07, which is separate from the order of betterment, which is recorded after the project with the exact betterment amount of $11,017.07 as shown in your board packet. So typically, the order of betterment includes the lien, which is paid off, typically either paid off at the time or through taxes through the assessor's office, and they would discharge that lien. The order of betterment, the notice of betterment, is us notifying all residents that there will be a betterment coming in, and if there are any transfers of property that it goes with the deed. So this property is going through a transfer, and they're requesting the release of the notice, which I recommend.
All right, so you included a form. Do all board members need to sign that form?
I think at least two, I believe.
All right. Any questions, board members? Mr. Gagne?
I would move that we follow the recommendation of the superintendent on the discharge of the lien on Lakeside Avenue.
I have a motion to approve the chair by Mr. Gagne. Chair seconds. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Item is approved. We have already dealt with item C. We've continued item D. Next item is item E, a discussion of the FY 2027 operating budget and CIP. Tim?
Yes, the finance committee and finance director has set the required submittal date for fiscal year 27 operating budget and capital improvement plans to be submitted no later than December 26th. So all of our department heads are currently working on the proposed operational budgets and capital plans, 10-year capital plans. And I'm scheduling to meet with departments beginning on tomorrow morning and early next week to move to finalize these budgets. Once the proposed budgets and CIP is finalized, I'll submit them to the board for review as well. And they will hopefully be on the next meeting.
All right. Mr. Gagne, any questions?
The only thing I would ask Tim, and those budgets are extensive. You showed me a copy of the budget book for the current fiscal year. I would just ask that the department heads would just make a one sheet on the most significant items that have changed in cost and value for their department. Not interested in the issue of the salaries. Those are contractual. I'm more interested in looking at what expenses are rising significantly. It gives us a better opportunity to put into our focus such things as were mentioned in the previous presentation on the cost of chemicals, electricity, those items there. So I think a summary sheet would be very helpful.
And we also we do have a summary notes at the bottom that I request from any departments that are requesting an increase in a line item as to why that item is being increased or being requested for increase for
Very
that same reason. So yes,
Thank you.
we can do that.
All right, so Tim, we expect that on our next agenda. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You might, since we're going to be talking about budgets, make sure that the public is noticed. We're talking a lot about large financial issues at this board, and I'm not entirely sure that the public is well aware of the scope of what we're talking about here. So if you could coordinate with the town administrator and the finance board and have somebody just pick up the phone and tell Dartmouth Weekly that we're going to start talking about budgets if they want to listen in. I think,
Yeah, I believe that the finance committee meetings are public and televised as well.
yeah. But we need to get the word out and be sure that the people who have any interest at all are aware and remind them that we're meeting and discussing these issues. As I say, I'm not entirely sure that I don't know how to put this politely. I'm not sure that the public is really paying attention to what's going on from a budgetary standpoint at this time of year. In other words, it all seems to come to a head at town meeting, but all of the work is done starting now, and the best time to have input or comment or raise issues is now, as opposed to at town meeting, which is a lot harder to make changes or influence the direction of things that are going on. So, all right. Thank you, Tim. Next item is water connection fees.
So kind of in line with the discussions on water rate increases, I was just kind of polling the board to see if there's interest in the review of our existing water connection fees. This was done back in 2023 when we also compared sewer connection fees, and while our sewer connection fees were dated and lower than a lot of comparable communities, our water fees seemed more in line at that time. But it's a couple years old, and we may want to research that again and see if we need to update any of our water connection fees as well.
Mr. Gagne?
My interest is not so much in the area of the residential. I think it would certainly be helpful to see what other communities get on the residential connection fees. I really would like to see some research done on communities that are having substantial apartment complex developments and what they are charging for those apartment complex units. We're seeing some very, very significant growth in that particular area, and I really would think it'd be beneficial for us to know, probably around the Metro Boston area and some of the suburbs, what water departments and sewer departments are getting for those particular types of units.
I agree. I agree completely. I think I have also an interest in understanding the purpose of the connection fees, and if we are limited by any regulations as to the amount of connection fees and how they relate to the actual work of, say, inspection and the meter itself, or whether the fee can also be applied toward future capital projects that might be necessary, additional water supplies in the case
Absolutely.
of water. I'd like to know that. And also whether a portion of the fee can be, of the sewer connection fee be put toward future wastewater treatment facility upgrades. So if you could bring that information back to us, that would be very helpful. I'd also like to know if we do adopt new fees, when they would be effective, and importantly, if there are any projects that are in the pipeline that would be affected by the new fees. We did have a discussion with a developer a few months ago about a fee increase, and I'd like to make sure that we understand whether we would be facing that kind of a discussion again.
Yes.
I think the other factor you gotta take into consideration, I believe Tim said to me, based on the projects we know that are apartment or condo projects, that we're somewhere in the range of about 1,400 units in Dartmouth. One thing that's going to do is it's going to trigger those capital items that you just spoke about in that presentation to have to be put into place a lot sooner than, a house built here and a house built there. I mean, we're on a very accelerated schedule with these permitting for these units. And I think we're going to have to deal with a substantial capital cost, and you're going to have the revenues to meet that debt service.
I agree. Absolutely.
Okay, tall order, Tim, but we know you can do it.
Thank you.
All right, anything else on this item?
No.
All right, so next item is committee updates. Tim?
I don't have any other than the finance committee requests for budgets.
All right. I have no updates. Mr. Gagne, do you have any updates?
No.
All right. Next item is the director update.
Again, the 579 Westport Road reconstruction project or upgrade project is still underway. The CT pipe or full log pipe work has been completed on the exterior, and they're working on interior work. We're looking to expedite getting that fully connected, tested, sampled, and operational as soon as possible to be able to work with DEP to get those 3 wells back turned online for the near future.
Tim, what is the actual role of DEP in bringing those wells back online?
Since they were shut down due to a bacterial
Right.
hit, they'll need to know that those wells are connected to a CT pipe infrastructure and also sanitized and we'll have to test and our we'll report our analysis on our samples.
So is their role simply to look at samples and sign off on the sampling system? Or do they have to come out and do physical inspection?
He would know that, but I don't think they come out and do physical inspection. It's more on our reporting and basically being permitted to turn those wells back online.
Okay. So then it sounds to me like this is a matter of a few days or weeks as opposed to some kind of longer process.
Yeah, we're hoping it's a short process. Once we get everything sampled, connected, sampled, and ready to turn back online.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
It's also the Hawthorne Street reconstruction design project is currently under review by MassDOT's intersection control team to see if control upgrades are are needed at the Slocum Road intersection. So we worked with our consultant to put that into our scope and submit that to ICE, or intersection control evaluation, from MassDOT. So that's currently underway, and we'll be planning to meet with our design team in the near future.
Any questions, Mr. Gagne?
All I can say is that Hawthorne Slocum Road intersection is one scary intersection. If you're coming westbound on Hawthorne Street, you're gonna make a left turn onto Slocum Road. Take a deep breath, because there are two lanes coming at you from the north on Slocum Road, and you're not always sure one of them's going to take a left turn.
Correct.
I avoid that constantly.
I just experienced that as well the other day. I tend to go through there every now and then to look at the traffic in that intersection. So absolutely. So we had done a SERPED signal warrant analysis. In their analysis, it did meet intersection control. So that's what triggered us to also submit that to MassDOT.
I've become very concerned with parents that are picking up children at the Quinn School that are coming up onto Hawthorne, and it's needs to be addressed, I think, specifically from a safety standpoint.
Absolutely. And moving on, so once we have that information, I'll update the board from MassDOT. Moving on to the Crossroad reconstruction project. So that project has moved into the 75% design phase. So we're working towards that with our consultant, and hopefully we can expedite this design and get that expedited on the tip as well for future construction. As you know, this year we did overlay a little into the project area because of the flooding in that area and the road conditions. So we did some temporary stormwater work to alleviate some of that, and as well as a mill and overlay to make that road more drivable until this project is underway.
I'm glad you did that, Tim, because that curve that's there ices up because of the water that lays on the pavement. And I agree. I mean, it's a measure temporarily for getting the water off that road, but I was very glad to see that, because that is one scary curve. If you're heading east on Crossroads and you come to that curve and it's icy, you're going to go right into the westbound lane.
Yeah, especially during the winter when you have any precipitation, then it freezes. So
yeah,
our highway crew did a great job out there constructing the stormwater to get that functioning, so we can hopefully have a safe winter and move forward towards this construction.
Thank you.
Cool. And lastly, staffing. We continue to work with our Human Resources Department. They've been really working hard with us throughout the whole town. There's been turnover and stuff. So I think we've had a lot of ebb and flow lately with staff leaving and new staff coming on board, and we're working to onboard everybody and train everybody and hopefully move forward with our operations. We have a new associate engineer coming on board on Monday, which is exciting news. And then we also did offer the assistant superintendent of water and sewer position to a candidate who we're looking to get on board by the end of the year.
That's good news. Tim, if you have time to read the Boston Globe, there have been some interesting articles on town financing over the last few weeks, and there is a recurring theme of difficulty in bringing people on board because of pay scale and medical insurance costs. So it doesn't necessarily make us feel any better to know that other people have the same problem, but clearly other towns have the same set of problems.
Yeah, and you know, the town is working on a committee to evaluate the healthcare costs and medical insurance and look at possibly other programs to to reduce the cost. So that's their focus currently, and also, you know, we're going through a compensation and reclassification study, which was originally scheduled to be completed by the end of the year, but it looks like it's been extended at least a month. So we'll be looking forward to getting that information and reviewing it, moving forward with that as well. And then coming into this next year, you know, union negotiations will have to kick off as well for the new fiscal year.
Tim, going back to the reclassification study, I recall that the last time the town did a reclassification study, there resulted some systemic problems in how the study was implemented. And I also recall that it seemed impossible to correct those problems. Can you give some thought about how the board could be most effective in helping the town develop any changes that make sense? Because some of the stuff just didn't seem to make any sense, but I also got the feeling it was kind of locked in, and there was a lot of shoulder shrugging about making changes. So that's a request.
Absolutely, and you know, hopefully this time it's not rushed. Even though we need to get it done and expedite it, we need the time to review it as well and make
Yeah.
sure that all the information is correct and done properly.
Yeah, there's an old saying, if you don't have time to do it right, when are you going to find time to do it over?
Correct, 100%.
Tim,
Yep.
one of the things that you really should ask them to look at is two communities that I've been working with. And one of the problems is your senior long-term employees get dead-ended at a compensation scale that's short, let's say 10 steps. You really should ask them, because there's a problem with that, because for one, an employee dead-ended gets a COLA. The COLA covers or doesn't cover the cost of the insurance increases that are running double digit year after year. You should ask them to maybe, if they're not doing it, but at least do a 12 or a 14 step, so that those valued top scale employees feel like they're in fact continue to be recognized. I know a couple of communities that in fact have lost long-term employees because they were dead-ended at a step 10 on their particular classification. It's very beneficial, because if you can keep that employee for another 4 years, especially if they're, you know, essential valued employees, from going to another community, I think a longer number of steps is helpful.
And as long as those steps aren't just, you know, the same, I guess, increase extended over a longer period of time, because the small increases aren't.
No, I'm not talking about that. You take the incremental increase between the existing 10 steps and you make that incremental increases for three or four more steps. Right. No, I agree with you. Don't stretch it.
And I think that's what's been done in the past. So it's you know,
all right.
Yeah.
No.
Other than that, we're working on hiring a couple more workers at highway drivers, and also our admin clerk Stephanie Robello has started, and she's doing a great job catching up and onboarding and getting trained. It's a really task oriented and demanding position. So she's doing a great job and working out well.
Any other questions, Mr. Gagne?
One question I have, Tim, the connection application for Delano Apartments, that was for 50 units,
Delano, 89.
89. Okay. Are they building 89 there now or more?
No, it's one building, 89 units. Yes.
But it looks like there's a second building going up.
It's an L-shaped building, so it's all one building. It's just a well, typically you don't see that many units in a single building. But so this is I think they built the front section and now they're building the back section.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. If there are no other items and if there are no other comments, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make the motion that we adjourn the Board of Public Works meeting.
Mr. Gagne has moved adjournment. The chair seconds the motion. Mr. Gagne, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Chair votes yes. Thank you very much, all of you, for being part of this and all the work you guys do in providing necessary services to the town. I appreciate it. I really do.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, the meeting is adjourned.